Uh, we are recording in progress. Delighted to welcome Dr. Craig Lieschke here tonight. He's my personal chiro, and as I just said, he knocks me about the place and puts me back into shape again, so I can continue to do what I do on an active level as I do it. And we have a range of guys on, and I'm sure by the time this recording is seen, we have guys who are truck drivers, we have guys who are sporty, we have guys who are walkers, we have guys, everybody where back is um the back is potentially getting hammered, and Craig puts me back together, and I just got him on to chat about his back and his role and his work and how he does things, how he sees things, and any advice and any tips and hints to keep the thing ticking along. Paul, you're a long distance driver. Leon, you're a short term driver like myself. You put the lumbar full into your back to support your spine, all those sort of things. So, Craig, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate that, pal. And if you wanted to kick off and get going, that'd be great.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the invite, and it's always a pleasure to talk about this sort of thing because I think it's so important. But if it's all right with you, I didn't prepare too much, but as a rough plan, I just would like to talk a little bit about the importance of this topic first, which may bore people a little bit, but I think it's really important to understand why we should be looking after ourselves in the first place, not just because of something that's like back pain. And then I'll tell a couple of brief stories, but we'll wrap up by probably giving the most important advice that we can give to people to take care of themselves. So if that sort of outline is okay with you, I'll just wing it and run through why I think this is so important.
Knock yourself out, and I'm sure there'll be some time for questions maybe at the end of it.
Okay, well, I can only see you on the screen, so I'm going to pretend I'm talking to you, Mike, which wouldn't hurt because you come into the centre and you probably think we do a reasonably good job here, but I think you've probably learned enough to know that it's teamwork in here. Oh, yeah. Sorry, brief introduction. Yeah, I'm a chiropractor. I don't know if you said that at the start. I've got 37 years experience. I graduated in 1987. I'm an ex-professional AFL footballer for 8 or 9 years. After that, I went to 53 countries in 3 years, traveling the world. And then I came back and set up Healing Wave here in the Newcastle area in 1994. We've now got 6 practices. I've trained and mentored 55 chiropractors over the last 30 years, and we look after 6,000 people in the Newcastle area every month. I've got 33 staff, and my claim to fame is that I still don't own a mobile phone, so don't ask me to do anything technical because I won't know the answer to that. But yeah, that's the brief history. But I don't know if people know what a chiropractor does, but I'm going to talk about backs more so than chiropractic. And what I want to do is a brief anatomy lecture. So just hang in with me for 2 or 3 minutes. But when a sperm meets an egg, Mike, like this, it looks like a little tadpole. And what I've got to tell you is that tadpole is a brain and a spinal cord and nothing else. It's the first thing that's formed. And then I'm in my clinic here, and you won't be able to see my pictures real well. If I knew how to share screen, which I don't, I'd show you. But all of the organs grow like fruit on the tree over the next 8 months in the womb. And in the last month, the spine grows around to protect it because it's the most important thing to take care of your whole health, not just your back health. We then go out and stuff ourselves driving trucks, sorry, Paul, and being diesel mechanics, sorry, Leon, and being chiropractors, sorry, Craig, bending over all day. And we wonder why we become unwell. Well, it's basically because we're screwing up our nervous system. So our profession actually started in 1895. The first chiropractic patient was a deaf janitor. He'd been deaf for, I think, 22 years. Someone tried to get his attention. He didn't come. When he went and tapped him on his back, he felt something out of alignment on his back. He pushed it, and this guy got his hearing back after 22 years. So for the first 80 years of our profession, it was more so about keeping people well and not letting them get sick. Politics in the last 20 or 30 years has said, well, there's no proof of that, even though you guys see miracles every day. You have to be back doctors now, and you can't say anything about the miracles that we see in here every week. Within the last 2 days, I had a 42-year-old lady who was told by the surgeons that she had to have neck surgery. And the only advice they gave her was never see a chiropractor. She's been with us for about 6 weeks, and now her neck is fine, and she feels great. But her lung function tests have improved. I think she said 40%. I didn't even know she had lung problems. All her eczema has cleared up. I didn't even notice that she had eczema, and her whole health has improved. And at the other end of the spectrum, I had a 9-month-old baby who's been sick every day since he was born. And when he came in, the mother claimed that he screamed for 2 hours at a time, and he started screaming. It was like the devil was coming out of his throat. And I don't know much about devils or kids screaming, even though I've had 4 kids, but he's had 2 adjustments, and she said he's just a completely new child. He cries for no more than 10 minutes and he sleeps all the time. So that's all via taking care of your back, but it's actually all about the nervous system. And I don't think people understand that. Chiropractors get a reputation for being back crackers, but in actual facts, we're spinal and neural specialists. It just so happens that it happens to be contained within the back. So there's my brief anatomy lecture. And then with particular reference to the boys we're talking to, but if I can just show a model here, which, Mike, you will have seen sitting in our clinic before. This is a demonstration of a good spine with a good healthy disc and big holes with nerves coming out. This is a model that shows ones that's starting to wear out. This is one that's showing up that it's worn out. And this is one that's showing that it's disgusting. Now, there is a million steps from here to here. There is a million steps from here to here. And there's a million steps from there to there. And every single person that ever listens to this chat or is watching now is somewhere between here and here. I've had some people that feel great and they look like that underneath. I've had other people that feel terrible and they look like that underneath. And without disclosing too much, let's just say Mike's somewhere in the middle. But
very descriptive.
Yeah, that was a generous description too, by the way. Anyway, the most important thing when you're trying to look out for your back, apart from what you can do for yourself, is find out where you're at so you know what you're dealing with. Because back pain, which is what Leon mentioned before, may not show up till here, or it might show up there. But the earlier you find out where you are and the earlier you learn how to look after it yourself, the better you can keep yourself back here. And I've got 90-year-olds that are still here. The spine is designed to last. If you dig up a skeleton that's 1,000 years old, it is still there. It's still in good shape. It's just that we stuff the things up in between, and that's why the nervous system gets affected and we become unhealthy. So having said that, the traditional approach, and I'm just picking on Leon a little bit, but forget about Leon for a moment, is if you're here, they say you're fine. If you're here, they say you're fine. If you're here, they say you're fine. If they're there, you say you're fine. If they're there, they say, oh, you're 40, you're 37 now, Leon, you got a little bit of early degeneration. Don't worry about it. That's normal. And then if you get there, and then if you get there, and then you're 60, say that you're normal, then now, sorry, you're stuffed, nothing can be done. The approach should be, if anatomy was taught correctly to people, is that if you start going here, fix the damn thing up. If you're there, do the best you can to keep it back here, but you don't have to let it go after there. And it's just simple tricks and trades, simple tricks of the trade that can help you stay back there, which we'll talk about later. Am I yapping too much, Mike? Do you want to interrupt me, or can I just keep going?
You keep going, bud.
Okay. As an example, I was a professional footballer and drafted by the Sydney Swans when I was 18, had my first x-ray, and I was already here, and I felt fine, and I was a pretty handy footballer and very fit and fast. Then I started trying to look after myself. I went to chiropractors once a month for 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, I was here, just in one area of my spine, and probably very nearly close to buggered. It took me 12 years to get the damn thing back here because no one taught me at a young age that I was supposed to look after my spine, and I didn't have any pain and symptoms. So I didn't look after it. I was just having a great time. So wherever people are, they need to know that it's not normal to go that way. It's normal to stay here, or at least if you put in some effort, not get any worse as you get older. Medical doctors call this process arthritis. Dentists call this process decay. Mechanics call this process rust. Chiropractors call this process subluxation. You can call it whatever you damn well like, but it's something that can be managed really well. And that probably brings my anatomy lecture to an end. The difference between those approaches is dentists, if you get decay, pull it out and put spare parts in. Mechanics will probably do the same. They'll order spare parts and they'll replace something that's worn out. But both the mechanics and the dentist will also recommend a grease and oil change. They'll also recommend daily brushing and things like that. The problem with society and why so many people suffer with back trouble is because no one's taught them that they should be managing it just like their teeth or just like their car, or anything else that makes sense. That people are taught that if they don't have any pain, there's no problem. So that's the first thing to learn, that you need to take care of your spine irrespective of how it's feeling. You want to interrupt me, Mike? Well, I'll just keep playing.
No, you just keep marching on. I think we got to that point fairly well. I think you made your points very well around the reputation of chiropractors from a certain section of medical groups and teams. But my own experience is that it has kept me going because I'm fairly active. It has definitely kept me going to where I am now, where I feel like once a month I get a bit of an adjustment and I can go hard as I like for the next month doing all the things I do. So from my own personal experience, it's the way to go. And as I keep telling my two lads, who's one is in his 30s and one's about 27, don't wait till you get to my age to start. Start at your age, Leon, your age, Paul. Find out where you're at. Find somebody you can trust to do the job and get on with it. I guarantee you won't regret it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Find someone who's loving and caring and is concerned about your long-term health rather than just a quick fix and making their $80 and making you feel good on the day, because that works. Chiropractic does that. So do painkillers and so do a lot of other things. But you need to find somebody who's going to study your x-rays, have a look at it, and be concerned about your long-term health and well-being. And the reason that we do have different opinions about us is because our overriding philosophy is that the body's designed to heal itself as long as we remove interference. The interference in this case being subluxation. But it's still not the chiropractor that does any of the healing. No chiropractor ever has or ever will fix anything. The body heals itself. All we do is we adjust the subluxations, we remove the interference, and then hopefully we inspire people to do good things to keep it that way. So thanks for your comments about that. Most people don't know that chiropractors do 5-year full-time study. And when I went through many years ago, our degree was actually longer than medicine. But because our philosophy is different, they like to bag us. Anyway, moving on. Does anyone else who's in the group want to interrupt and ask a question before I start talking about a few other things? No, well, we'll just keep going. I did jot down a few things that I thought were important. I think we've covered it already. Just another thing on backs and back pain and subluxation and degeneration. I was just reading some articles the other day and looking at some posters to put up in our clinic. And I know a lot of professional athletes and high performance people do go to chiropractors, but what I didn't know is that Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, Tiger Woods the golfer, Michael Jordan the basketballer, and Tom Brady as well, all swear by going to their chiropractor on a fortnightly basis, not because they have any pain or symptoms, but because they want to be at their best. So that's a side note for anyone who's interested in peak performance as an athlete. And I've got heaps of stories I can tell about that as well. But that'll do for now. Good enough if it's good for Tiger and Air Jordan and Tom Brady. Will assume that they're onto something. I know Arnold Schwarzenegger and Usain Bolt and a whole lot of other ones do it as well, but that's a side note. So let's move on and just talk about probably the most important things that people can do themselves. There's only 5 things in my mind that are important with spinal care, or the most important. And I'm not going to talk about avoiding stress and sleeping well and all that health stuff that we already know about. But I would like to pick on one thing in particular, because sitting for your spine is like sugar for your teeth. And they say sitting is the new smoking as well. And in this day and age, with a lot of the stuff that we do, there's so much sitting involved, and I know we've got a couple of truck drivers on the call and so forth, but we're probably all sitting right now. I'm going to hedge a bet that I'm the only one sitting properly, simply because I've got a saddle chair. I don't know if you can see it, but it's impossible to slouch on this chair or I fall off it. I heard someone mention that they love lumbar supports, which is a great idea, but it's not the end of the story. So I'm going to just talk to that for a little bit, Mike, because I think sitting is the most important thing. I don't know if people probably know that standing up desks are becoming quite popular, which makes people think standing is a great thing. It's not particularly a great thing for you. It's just that sitting is a bad thing. So as a brief demonstration, I don't know if this will show up on your video, but when we stand, and if you can see any of my pictures in the background, we do have a curve in our back. Most people can just feel in there and they can feel a curve. And what happens when we sit down? Sorry, a curve works like a shock absorber. I don't know if you can see that, but it works like a spring. In a truck or on a one-ton ute or a vehicle or anything, a curve works like a shock absorber. If I bend this down and I just try and demonstrate, I've got my Hawaiian shirt on. I don't know if that curve shows, but normally when we sit down, if we sit with that curve still in the place there like that, it is exactly the same for our spine as if we are standing. So the standing up position is no better than sitting if we maintain that curve. The problem is, if you have a think about it, I've got to sit on the front of this chair because it doesn't let me slouch, but most of us go like that. And we lean back on there, even if there is a lumbar support, by the way, and we lose that curve. I don't know if you've ever been in a restaurant, you've seen someone sitting up like Jackie like this, and they look weird and stupid because they're the only ones in the restaurant that are doing it right. Most of us are just going like that, and the numbers that I'm going to tell you will astound you, but they do research where they put electrodes that measure pressure in the discs of your back when you're sitting with a curve. And in this example, with me sitting up properly, the pressure through my disc would be 40 kilos, let's say, for example, because the top half of my body is 40 kilos. If they leave that pressure electrode in there and I just do this and take that curve out, I'm not going to ask anyone to guess because we're not communicating, but the pressure goes up somewhere between 3 and 5 times. Now, if that's 40 kilos, just doing that simple act, which is probably how you're sitting there, Mike, today, after you've had a great adjustment, by the way. I'm
sitting up straight now.
Yeah, well, straight is one thing, but just remember, try and get that curve. Sit tall and get the curve in there. That means if I sit like that, I'm putting 120, somewhere between 120 and 200 kilos on my back whilst I'm sitting here, and I'm feeling quite relaxed, and it feels okay. So as the guys or whoever's listening is working out what they can do, sitting is a killer, and maintaining the curve. Use lumbar supports if you can, but even this chair, which when it's set up properly, it's a saddle chair. If I sit properly in this chair, you could fit a sliver of paper between my back and that lumbar support. Because as soon as I go on it, I'm heading back towards that increased pressure. Now, if you put 3 to 5 times the pressure on your back more than it's designed to be carrying, I'm just going to do a little bit of maths and say if I'm driving a 1-ton ute, that's me putting on 3 to 5 tons of weight on a 1-ton ute. Now, I can get away with that. I can drive around the block and I might even get to Sydney and back, but eventually something's going to blow up. All right. And the springs will explode, or I don't know, the diesel mechanics will know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be pretty. The brain is so smart that it knows that we're sitting incorrectly, and rather than let it blow up, this is its protection system. And then we all bitch and moan because we're getting sore backs and we're wearing out and the doctors are telling us we've got arthritis, where it's been us that has been contributing to it all the time. So that is probably one of the most important things in this day and age, because we're all doing that. And there's a lot more things I could talk about with computers dragging us forwards and things like that, which increases the pressure on your backs. But please try and maintain the curves, both in your neck and your low back, and you will be you won't be fixing any problems that you got, but you will be decreasing the amount of further deterioration that you're creating. Okay, so Mike,
I just wonder at that point, does either Leon or Paul or Michael, for instance, have a question? I know, Leon, you said you had a back issue. I wonder, would you be okay and comfortable to share it with the crew? And maybe Craig could just talk you through something.
Yeah, it's fine. I've had an ongoing back issue for probably the last 5 years, I'd say. I've been maintaining it really well up until probably the last 6 months. I'm still doing the same things. I exercise frequently, like loving the footy and all that, and hit the gym, stretch. But just recently, I don't know, it's just consistent, and I'm not sleeping. And that's really just fatiguing me all over, really. So, yeah.
So can I just pick up on that a little bit, Leon? The fatigue and stuff is because your nervous system is being compressed. Certainly back pain and discomfort is annoying, but it's more so that your nervous system is not allowed to fire as well as it can be. If you've had something for 5 years, you might be a person who is stuck with discomfort, which is fine. We all do have some discomfort, but if it's progressing underneath, that's the issue. The issue is not what you've got now. The issue is what it can become. So hopefully someone has taken an x-ray and had a look at your spine, and they've explained it to you, and they've taught you how to manage that. But that's a very, very common story that I've heard. I think I've seen 100,000 people now in the last 37 years. Some of the people with that story have still got great spines. Some of the people with that story have got terrible spines. The ones with great spines, it's more their job to fix it themselves after we teach them how to do it. If they've got terrible spines, it's something that I've got to help them with a little bit more, but hopefully yours is still a great one. Have you found out what your spine is like underneath?
I literally had an x-ray about 3 hours ago. So
here we go.
waiting to get that back, and yeah, then go from there, I think.
Who organised the x-ray for you?
My GP.
Great. Was it done standing up or lying down?
Standing up.
Okay, standing up is great. Just be aware that as you're getting the report will say that this is normal, and you need to look at the pictures. GPs are not trained to read x-rays in any way, shape or form, and their training in anatomy is pretty poor as well. So just be careful with the advice that's given to you from the GP. Make sure you get hold of the pictures and have a look at it for yourself. You don't know, it's not rocket science trying to work it out. But if you've got any questions, you can just send them to me and I'll give you a buzz and we can talk about it over the phone, because people, it's a little bit of a meat market out there, the different opinions that people tell you. So I'm more than happy to discuss those x-rays with you if you're not happy with the explanation you've been given or it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate that. The GP didn't give me a lot of confidence. He pretty much asked me 5 questions, organised the x-ray, which was one good thing, and then just sent me home with some Tremadol. So yeah.
My wife's a pain specialist and I know a lot about all the medications, and whilst occasionally are necessary, they never have and they never will fix back pain, but they stop the messages getting to the brain, which is nice. It makes you feel better, but it means you go out and do the wrong thing more and you can make it worse. So hopefully it's a great result on the x-ray, in which case it's just your job to do a better job of looking after it. If it is worn out, which a lot are, I think I told you before, if you're listening, mine was degenerated at 18, which didn't mean I had a big accident at some stage. It just means it had been there since I was 1 or 2. So it all depends. And I didn't have any symptoms to that day. So you've been having trouble for 5 years. You're 37 years of age. You're probably not sitting with a curve now. Just show me what it looks like to sit up straight, will you? Yeah, get the head as high as you can and get the curve in the back, and you feel like a bit of a dick. But I promise you, if you did that for half an hour, it'd feel like you're working twice as hard. But when you got up out of the chair, you would feel fine. But if you sit down in a chair incorrectly, you feel like you're relaxed. But when you get out of the chair, you feel as stiff as a board. I've done a lot of experimenting with that. So just keep that little bit in the back of your mind too. Thanks for sharing that story. I wonder
might just jump in now. Paul is a long distance driver. Paul, is your back something that you have to work on? Do you have plans or ideas, or how do you manage your back whilst you're doing some of your driving?
Oh well, very much so. I've learned a lot through probably the last when I did my last or when I did my last stint of interstate, I did 4 years. So I was doing Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and I wasn't in the best of working environment, so I decided to get out of it. But and I've got into heavy haulage, which is a bit easier, but like hour wise, and I don't drive as much, but I still, and especially this last few months, we've struggled with tiredness. So so it's probably more my hips and my back that sort of get really tight. I've been working with and I've only just had a session tonight, but I used to get a lot of massages when I was driving, which was sort of a temporary sort of fix. And then I discovered Emmett therapy or Bowen therapy, and I found that to be really effective. But I'm just, by listening to Craig now, it sort of turned my attention to, maybe we need to have a look at sort of what condition my spine actually is in, because I even find I sleep well, but I still wake up tired, absolutely buggered some mornings. I got no go, no sometimes you're so tired, or you just can't be bothered. The simplest of tasks, you just don't want to know about it. So,
So any hints or tips for long distance lorry drivers, young Craig?
Thanks for sharing, Paul. And truck drivers are great. And I know a lot of them, and I've looked after a lot of them, and most of them, unfortunately, do develop spinal problems. But the good thing about trucks and truck drivers is a lot of effort and time and money has gone into getting good seats. And I've got my brother had 7 interstate trucks going, and my best mate's got about 6 or 7 as well. And even the seats that those trucks come in with, my brother and my mate, he'll replace those seats, and I can't remember anymore. I bet they can spend up to $12,000 on a seat in a truck.
Yeah.
But it used to be $8,000 when I used to go in and check them all out and just see what they were like. And the ones that the trucks were coming in weren't good enough. And then they'd put in these $8,000 seats, which is quite a few years ago, which is a really good thing that the trucking industry is aware of. I don't think the bosses will spend the money, but people that certainly own their own trucks go out of their way to spend the money, because it is very hard to sit correctly in most vehicles. But truckers are doing so many hours sitting that it's really important to do that. What I'd add to that story, Paul, if you don't mind, is what I tell people is everything works. It doesn't matter if you go to a massage therapist or a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or a Bowen therapist, or if you take medication, or if you take drugs, or if you drink scotch, or you pray to God. It all works. All of those things can make you feel better, guaranteed. But if you've got stuff that's still deteriorating underneath, eventually whatever you use, apart from scotch and praying to God, eventually it's probably not going to work anymore. So we all get attached to feeling great with practitioners. And, you can take celery juice, and you can take, my brother's a truckie, and he swears by, not for his back, but he can't drive the truck unless he takes New Zealand green-lipped mussels. His elbows won't work. And don't ask me why that won't work for everybody, but there is a mountain of things out there that'll make you feel better, which is all good, and I encourage everybody to do every single one of them that makes it feel good. But for goodness sake, find out what you like underneath and make sure you're managing that, or otherwise it doesn't matter what you're doing, what profession you're seeing, whether you're seeing me and you think I'm the best chiropractor in the world or not. It doesn't matter. If you're getting worse underneath, you're getting worse underneath, and it's going to affect your energy levels as a sure thing. But eventually, it starts affecting your organs, and then eventually you just become unwell, and your back pain doesn't bother you anymore because other sickness starts to set in. So
Yeah, it's been a real no, thanks. It's been a real eye opener because you sort of yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure what a chiropractor did, but this has sort of changed my and that's why these calls are good, because you tend to find out things that are quite helpful. That's why we tune in every month. You know, it doesn't matter what topic it is. But yeah, when Mick sort of brought it up, I thought, oh, this is going to be a good thing to tune into, because you know, I've just learned. I mean, this is my 18th year of driving. You know, so and then especially being in heavy haulage as well. Like, my job has got I drive, but it's also very physical. So you know, so we do a lot of on-site work. And I want to get fit and I want to get healthy, but it's very hard to exercise and try and do that when you're already buggered. You know,
18 years of haulage, but 46 years. No, not the first three. The first 3 we usually do things right, of sitting and mucking around and having a good time, which hopefully the body has healed up any of the problems. But if it hasn't, what it does is it goes into this protection state, and it's a really, really, really good system. But 25 years later, you're screwed. So it's just that we were never taught at a young age, and we'll talk about this later if I haven't taken up too much time already, about what I think is some of the most important things. But yeah, find out and look after it. And you're already thinking about it, which is a great thing.
All right, we'll take that on board, mate.
I wonder if Michael is there, if he was had anything to add to the discussion.
Who are we talking to? Sorry.
There's Michael is there. He's just off camera at the minute. Maybe he's not listening.
I didn't know.
And certainly, from my point of view, as I have got older, it's about making sure that I'm as fit as I possibly can be to be around as long as I can for the family, the grandkids, all those sort of things. So I am very driven to make sure that I'm in to see Craig once a month or once or whatever, and do what needs to happen to make sure that I can get out of bed. I can reach down to pick up the grandson. I can actually pick them up without having to, you know, brace myself and those sort of things. And also, you know, I play golf. I machine row. Celine and I, my wife and I, do, you know, long 14, 20K bushwalks. So I want to make sure that it's all Mickey Mouse Rat to live as well as you possibly can. And you two boys are much younger than us. I think Craig and I are the same vintage. So you have an early mark now to get it sorted out and live your best as best you can going forward.
Yeah, good call. It's about having more years in your life if possible, but more life in your years as well.
Yeah,
more years in your life and more life in your years. I've just got probably two things I want to talk about. Have we still got a few minutes left?
Knock yourself out, Craig.
Okay. One's a little bit of science. It'll take me about a minute and a half just to scare the pants off you and try and make you look after yourself even more. And then two, I just want to give you a list of my best tips before we go. You remember looking at these models before, one being brilliant, where were we? Brilliant, and one being terrible. There's a guy in the UK who was doing autopsies. It's a few years ago. It's called the Windsor autopsies. And anyway, he did 2,400 autopsies. And when someone died of liver cancer, rather than just cut up the liver and say, oh, yeah, he had liver cancer, that's what killed him, and cut up the heart and say, oh, yeah, he had a heart attack, that's what killed him. He traced back the main root nerve from the organ that killed the person back to the part of the spine where that nerve came from. And he wanted to know what percentage of people were degenerated at the place where the nerve went to the organ that was actually causing the death of the person. And I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 94%. It was something ridiculously high. So this is just so important to take care of this thing. And if you remember the story of the sperm and the egg and it being your life force, you can't screw this stuff up around it, or you become unwell in ways that you won't even understand. The chiropractors, of course, when that research came out, thought, oh, wow, this is fantastic. They're going to tell everyone to take care of their spine. But no, the cultural authority, who can rename nameless, decided that if you get cancer of the liver, get your spine checked. If you get stomach disease, get your spine checked. Not prevent it from coming in the first place. They said, oh, yeah, well, we should include spinal care after you get sick, which, anyway, that's a side note, but the importance is so much. So we'll talk about the 5 most important things that people can take home and look after themselves. And they're very basic and they're very simple, but I'm going to ham it up and talk big time about the last thing, and it'll take me a few minutes. But the 5 things. Number 1, we talked about it before. It's posture, which is both standing and sitting. We talked about sitting before and maintaining the curve, but you want to stand tall and keep the curve in your neck. I won't go into the details, but anyone with back trouble or anyone without back trouble, standing and sitting. Number 1, posture. Try and stand tall, try and sit tall, maintain those curves in your spine, and that will be the first part of preventing things from getting worse. Number 2, bending and lifting correctly. We all have heard about it being correct, but I don't think, bend your knees, blah, blah, blah. If you try and lift something heavy, you can't. I don't know, this is a 300 or 400 kilogram chiropractic table here. I can't bend it. I can't lift it without bending my knees. That's not the issue. This pen, I don't know what it weighs, but if I drop it and I pick it up, Mike, how much does the pen weigh when I pick it up?
I don't know, 15 kilos or something.
People think it's a light pen, so they bend down and pick it up like that. But the top half of my body is 40 kilos. If I bend down like that and pick it up, that pen weighs 40 kilos. If I bend down with my knees and pick it up like you see a child pick it up, the pen weighs about 20 grams. Now, sorry, now you got me bloody on my pedestal. If that weighs 1 kilo, I did my major research project on this at university many years ago, and I hold it out there with leverage, and anyone with trucks and cranes and bloody lift and shit knows what it's like. That no longer weighs 1 kilo on my back. It weighs 17 kilos with leverage. And you'll know how big a crane you got to get when you're lifting stuff up that's fair weight. If I was able to go directly straight and double it again, it goes up to 91 kilos of weight on my back. If I turn as well and put torque onto it, which we do when we lift the mower up and put it in the back of the car, it's 256 kilos rather than 1. Back to this pen. If I bend down and lift up that pen, I hope you're listening, Leon. He looks like a pen picker-upper to me. No, I'm kidding. I have just lifted up 40 kilos. Sorry, if I go down like this, I'm lifting things right. But if I go like that, that 40 kilos is not out there. I'm not going to multiply it by 17, but I'm going to multiply it by about 3 or 4 or 5. And it's going to be about 200 kilos wearing down on my back. And you'll get away with that 1,000 times. But on the 1,001st time, something's going to go wrong. And you're going to think, oh, shit, something just happened. No, it didn't. It happened the last 1,000 times you picked up that light thing without doing it properly. So, number 1, posture. Standing and sitting correctly. Try and maintain your curves and stand tall all the time. Bending and lifting correctly. The light things. Most people lift heavy things properly, okay? But the light things they don't pick up properly. 3, don't put on too much weight. Whatever weight you are, stay there. Don't put more on. I don't know if there's an ideal weight, but you shouldn't put more on because gravity is compressing things. If you've got any spinal problems and you start putting on weight, the impact of gravity is more. That's just a no-brainer. 4, make sure you move your spine every day. And that's the one I want to spend a few minutes on in a minute. And 5, find out someone who cares and loves you and get them to check your spine and take an x-ray. And Paul, you said something before about you didn't know too much about what a chiropractor does. Well, I can tell you half the chiropractors don't know what they're bloody doing either. So be careful when you go to somebody. Give them 2 or 3 goes, and if you don't think they're being honest and genuine and they don't love and care you, get out of there and go to somewhere else, because it's too easy to make $50 by giving someone 10 minutes of your best, but that's not going to look after you in the long run. And people that don't have experience and aren't skilled want to make the $50, and they don't care if they don't bump into you in the street. But if I bump into Mike in the street in 20 years' time, I want him to be the same as he is now, and that's my job. Sorry, got me on the pedestal there. Posture. Sorry, I'm just going to go over these again. Standing, sitting, straight, easy. Bending and lifting correctly. Don't put weight on. Move your spine through its full range every day and get someone who cares to check you out. Now, sorry, Mike, I've gone over the time limit a bit. I just want to talk about the importance of, I know that you boys stretch and so forth and you exercise, and that's all a great thing. But what you need to do is to do full ranges of movement, ear on the shoulder, turning 90 degrees, knees to chest, leg over the side. It's a bit of a campaign teaching people. Every night before bed, actually forget about what the important moves are to do, because that's another lecture that needs a bit of time. Every single thing in nature, dogs, cats, horses, goats, birds, rabbits, and even my dumb chooks, before they go to bed, they spend 20 or 30 seconds loosening everything up to tell their brain not to put any of that degeneration rubbish in their spine overnight. I can't stress how important this is. Children do it for the first 3 years of their life. They move around when they wake up, they move around when they go to sleep, and they go to sleep. Once they get smarter and they start writing their name and doing times tables, and their frontal lobe starts growing, and eventually they're building cities and driving cars, all the instinctive stuff that is in the back of their brain is overwhelmed with all this shit we're doing. Sorry, what's the language? And we've just forgotten the importance of moving. But all animals do it and children do it. We don't do it because we're too busy. An animal still knows when a storm's coming, because their instincts are aware. I don't know when a bloody storm's coming. I'm here, I've got my head down adjusting people all day, and I go outside and it's bloody raining, and I think, oh, that's funny. So what we should be doing before we go to bed is being like an animal and moving things. We all tend to brush our teeth because we've been brainwashed to brush our teeth. That is to try and stop tooth decay, I assume. Well, I can tell you, if you get tooth decay, you can get falsies or eat soup. Not a problem. But if you get spine decay, you're going to have less energy, your organs are going to start not functioning 100%, and you're going to become unwell. So if you don't think you've got time to spend a minute or two loosening things up before bed, throw your toothbrush in the bin and just get false teeth later, and spend that minute or two loosening things up. And I don't care if you've rode 22 kilometres at lunchtime, not mentioning any names.
Thanks, Craig.
Still loosen things up. The way it works is, if you go to the gym and you lift a heavy weight, most people know that the muscle doesn't grow whilst you're lifting the weight. You go to bed, you go to sleep, the brain says, oh my God, that was heavy. What am I going to do? I better make this a little bit bigger, okay, in case he wants to lift the stupid heavy weight again tomorrow. It's the same thing with spines. Okay, Leon's having a bit of trouble. Paul's driving a truck all day. Mike's busy on the phone all the time and at his computer. I'm bending over people all day here. We're all doing the wrong thing, but we don't get worse while we're doing it. It's like the muscle does not get bigger when you're lifting it. It's only if we take the shit from the day to bed without loosening it all up, the brain says, oh my God, Craig, you've been bending over a damn chiropractic table all day. You're probably stupid enough to do it again tomorrow. So you know what I'm going to do, Craig? I'm going to do a favor. I'm going to put in a bit of this protection, which is all these models are talking about. It's just more and more protection. But if I did what an animal does and I loosened everything up before bed, the last thing my brain gets told is, okay, he's been bending all day, but he wants to keep it nice and loose. You know what? I don't think I'll put any of that crap in there tonight. I think I'll just leave him alone. He seems like he wants to keep that nice and loose. So if everybody who's listening or anybody gets anything out of this chat, just think like, go back to basics. Animals do it, and pamper yourself or treat yourself to a minute or a minute and a half somewhere in that last hour before bed, where you put your spine through the full range. As an example, how often do I need my neck over there during the day? Never. But if I don't put it over there, my brain assumes I don't want it. So over the next 10 years, eventually I'm going to get neck degeneration because it's saying, oh, well, you don't want that. I never need it over there, but if I don't take it over there, eventually I won't be able to get it around there. And it's the same when you go full range of motion. Relax at the end. I'm never around there in a relaxed state during the day. I'm too busy lifting worn out spines like yours, Mike. And but if I go around there and I relax and I let my brain know that I want to stay loose, I just prevent that natural thing of protection that the body is doing whilst I'm asleep. And that alone, as long as things aren't worn out too much, can improve such a large percentage of the population. Stand tall, sit tall, have great posture, bend and lift correctly. Don't put on excessive weight. Make sure you move every night before bed. Tell your brain you don't want to decay. You're doing it for your teeth. Forget your teeth. Do your spine. It's more important. And get someone to check you and let you know how you're going. Make sure they care. Mic drop.
That's it.
That's all
On
I've got.
that note, Craig, you're natural in front of a telly, pal. Good on you, as well as being a very good chiropractor. Just very quickly, quick comments from Leon, Paul, or Michael before we let Craig go, if anything.
Oh, that was amazing. Loved it. Thank you. Yeah, got a lot out of that.
Yeah, same here, mate. Just, I think I've heard a lot of it before. It's just getting reminded of what to do and what you should be doing all the time. It's just, you know, you get complacent. I think you feel good until you don't, and then you need to remind of what you should have been doing. So,
Yeah,
thank you. Appreciate it.
and look at I'm sorry, Leon. If you need or if you wish to contact Craig, flick me an email and I can set you guys up and you can chat.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No problem at all. It's just a bit easier. The devil you know than the devil you don't. And I've seen 100,000 X-rays now and a lot of people. So yeah, if you want to chat about anything, I'm more than open to that. I'm fully booked most of the time, but if you just leave me a message, I don't own a mobile phone. I'm not being rude, but I'm good on emails and I like these old-fashioned things.
Okay.
They work. I can call, but a lot of people don't pick up when I call because they don't know who it is. But anyway, yeah, more than welcome. And thanks for letting me have this chat. I'm quite passionate about it. And this will seem a little bit off topic, but the worst thing that has happened in the last 30 years of my career, and I would like to think that I'm a better chiropractor now than I was 30 years ago, but it is harder now to keep kids good than it was 30 years ago. And I don't mean to disrespect those of us that are a bit older, but it is more important to keep the kids good than it is to fix up us old broken down ones. So if you've got kids, get them checked. Find someone who loves checking kids. One adjustment in a child is like 50 in an adult, as far as how much it can influence the nervous system and prevent these subluxation degeneration changes from happening. Because the kids, I don't know, I assume it's the stress of screens and phones and chemicals in foods and goodness knows what. But 30 years ago, if any child had any subluxations, I could almost guarantee and bet my house that I'd get them great within a couple of adjustments. It is so much harder now just because some form of stresses in the world are greater than what they were even 30 years ago. So make sure you look after the children. That's the most important part of this as well.
Well, Craig, just signing off. Thanks very much for your time. You can feel and hear the passion coming through, and I can feel it when I'm stretched out in that bloody bed of yours. You're jamming your knees into me back and all the rest of it. But I feel 100% for it, and I've, you know, as you know, I do a lot of charity stuff and row marathons and things, and there's zero chance I could do any of that without the intervention from you guys and your team there. So thank you very much for that. Leon, Paul, Michael, I hope you got something out of that tonight.
Oh, yes.
Any questions, flick it to me, and I can set you guys up with Craig, and in his own time get back and chat and steer you in the right direction.
Side note, Mike, you get a bit extra because you're Irish and you're a Port Adelaide supporter. So don't think I treat everyone as mean as I treat you.
No, I'm well aware there are certain topics that are off limits, Craig.
And I'd just ask anyone that's listening to just spend a minute and a half or 2 minutes tonight before bed, or at least as long as you do brushing your teeth, connecting with your body, lying down and relaxing, and trying to move it through its full range in a relaxed, calm, non-exercise headspace. And do it tonight because we've been talking. But if you do that regularly in the evening for 10 days, you'll start to notice the difference in the morning. A lot of people think, oh, gee, I slept no good last night. It's not that. It's just you didn't fix yourself up the night before. So just play with that, guys, and good luck, and contact me if you need anything.
Thanks, you. I'm just about to stop the recording, but again, Craig, Leon, Paul, Michael, thanks for your time. And fellas, when I get it uploaded, I'll put it into the lads group. Enjoy this call. There's some good old-fashioned advice in there to keep you ticking along. What was it, Craig? Adding years to your life or life to your years, whatever the hell. One of them anyway.
No, there's a better one. First you make your habits, then your habits make you.
Oh, you see, I knew there's a reason we got you on.
The habit of movement. 80% of the nutrition to your brain comes from movement of your spine in some research. I'm not smart enough to know that, but yeah, make it a habit. You teach your kids to brush your teeth. I'm teaching you guys to move your spines, and then teach your kids to do it as well. Go Pies. I'm out of here.
On that note, good night, folks. Thank you very much. Be good.
Thanks, everyone. Bloody good. Loved it.